You've had the same conversation over and over. You know that it goes nowhere. You begin to recognize the sentences, the cues, even the mood in the room that signal to you that you're about to be led down the same path. You're completely exhausted. You simply cannot repeat that same loop again. I'll show you 3 phrases that you can say to help you break that pattern so that you don't repeat that loop. The first phrase is, "I'm sorry, but the decision has already been made." The "I'm sorry" isn't you apologizing for doing something wrong. It's actually about empathizing with them. Just like if you saw your friend going through something really hard, you'd say, "Hey, I'm sorry you're going through this. I know this is hard." And the decision has already been made. You're not going to change your mind. You don't have to defend your decision. And if they keep asking you why, you don't have to explain it for the 1,000th time. Them asking you why is more likely because they're trying to convince you to change your mind rather than actually trying to understand where you're coming from. So the most helpful thing that you can do for both of you is to just put it to rest. Now, you might be finding that you're trying to say this phrase, but the moment they start that conversation with you, your heart rate has picked up, your throat has closed up. You're finding yourself having the same bodily reaction that gets you to say the same defenses or saying something that you regret later because you've been somatically baited. Your nervous system has kicked into fight or flight. It might almost feel like your body is getting hijacked, like it's been taken over. And afterwards, you're like, who was that? Why did I say that? Why did I react that way? That's not me. When we judge ourselves like this, it only adds more weight. So before we get to the next 2 phrases, I want to show you something that you can do in real time. It helps to remind you of where they end and you begin. You're simply going to bring your left hand to the right side of your rib cage and your right hand over to your left arm. So this is different than I'm crossing my arms, I'm defending myself, I don't want to hear what you have to say. This is more about holding yourself in a difficult moment. Before you let fight or flight take over and you repeat the pattern or you repeat what you used to say in the past, you're going to ground yourself in this present moment and choose a response that actually is coming from you and not your survival self. Why somatic? So somatic just means of the body. Our body is the fastest, most effective way for us to learn a new pattern in the nervous system. If we're always trying to think our way or talk ourselves out of an already aroused state, it might take a while. Whereas if we do something like this, or even a firm touch on our thigh, that can bring us back into the present moment, like snapping out of it, much quicker. And in this way, we can stop the biology tax that we're paying every time we get into a heightened state of anger and anxiety and we stay there. We are helping our body in real time come back to homeostasis, come back to that natural balance so that your regulated self can come back online quicker. Now, the second phrase is for the fixers, the well-meaning ones in our lives who really hate to see us struggle. As well-meaning as that is, if we're already struggling and someone is telling us, hey, you shouldn't feel like that, it's not that bad, it can be really invalidating. So in those moments, you can say to them, thank you, I'm not looking for a solution. We love our fixers. I was a fixer myself. We know 9 times out of 10 it's probably coming from a good place. But being around a fixer can also feel very overwhelming because we feel like we have to hand over our control. If you were born in the 80s or before, like I was, it's just something that we were never taught. How to be with somebody when they're having a hard time, how to hold space for that. When we don't have the tools or language to navigate that, we can resort to old patterns like wanting to fix. Boundaries get blurred. Which are my emotions, which are theirs? It's important to remember that we can only ever be responsible for our own emotions, just like they can only be responsible for theirs. Fixing is actually about them wanting to ease their own anxiety by changing your emotional state. Very hard for us to feel like we owe it to somebody to fix ourselves. So instead, you can just tell them gently, hey, I just need some time to process this in my own way. The third phrase I'm going to teach you is wait. So this is actually a phrase that you'll be saying more so to yourself. Wait before you respond. Wait before you say something you can't take back, especially if the bait is coming through text. Sometimes just receiving a notification from a certain someone can take us out of our regulated state. Before we've even opened up the text, we're already armored up. Feeling of dread takes over and we're just thinking, what now? If you have someone like that in your life, wait. Train yourself that their urgency is not your emergency. Wait for as long as you can. If it's 15 minutes, great. If it's an hour, even better. If it's the next morning, that's ideal. The longer you prolong that window, the better chance you have of responding from a regulated place rather than a goaded reaction. And when you do respond, do it in as few words as possible. I know it's going to be tempting to explain why you decided what you did, but the more you put in, the more you give them to pick apart. So wait and then keep that statement concise and clear. We're all learning as we go. The point of this isn't to be perfect or have the perfect response ready. It's learning how to have compassion for ourselves in moments when times are hard and how to have compassion for them. Think about it. We don't need to practice patience when things are going smoothly. We only have the opportunity to practice patience when things are uncertain, when they're chaotic, when they're challenging. When you practice taking yourself out of fight or flight, then your regulated state becomes your default. Things feel less scary, not because they've changed, but because you have.